podcast.
You listen to Kendrick and Matt on the Slip and Dip podcast.
Oh, beautiful, man. Woo! Slip and Dip podcast back in your life. Episode 117. Throwing a wrinkle we've never done before. Of course, I'm Kendrick Johnson. I'm tag teaming with my man Anthony Walker for sure, dog. Matt's under the weather, but we still gonna give you fresh Slip and Dip content like we always do. We'll have Johnathon Banks, trainer Triple G, and former 100 heavyweight champion Walter McClisco will be in the house. And we got our friend of the show, Showtime, Shawn Porter, talking everything, recapping the Errol Spence fight, talking about Errol Spence's accident, and the future of Showtime Shawn Porter. He hasn't done very many interviews other than TMZ, so you're not going to hear this anywhere else. I challenge you to find this interview somewhere else. What's up, Ant, man? Thanks for coming on, man, and the pinch, man, helping us out.
Oh man, appreciate y'all having me on. You know, Matt hit me up, said he was just a little bit under the weather, so I figured I'll jump in and keep this thing going. So fun to be back on the Slip and Dip podcast. Of course, being a co-host this time instead of a guest, I'll take it.
Our first time ever, we had somebody that named Kendrick and Matt, man. So you got that honor.
Hey, this is Black History, baby. That's what we doing. But yeah, man. So definitely some fun stuff to talk about fight wise, man. Did you catch UFC event in Tampa last night?
Props to JJ. I don't like hearing people win losses, but I think Michelle couldn't have fought any better. It's kind of like Shawn, but it's a little bit different than Shawn. Shawn could have legitimately, because people think he won the fight, and he fought as best as he could, and I've never seen him look that good. Michelle looked really good, but I don't think she could have won the fight. It's just like a style and a size mismatch that she couldn't overcome. She had her moments, especially when she took her back and stuff, but did you ever think JJ was going to lose the fight? My wife doesn't know anything about fights. She's like, she knows from Michelle from watching the show. She's like, I like Karate Hottie, but I don't see how she has any chance. She's too little, and Joanna's just too skilled.
Yeah, it just kind of was the perfect storm of the worst sort of scenario that you could put Michelle Waterson in. You know, she's a natural atomweight. She does her best work at 105. Of course, the UFC does not have an atomweight division. Therefore, she's fighting at strawweight. And Joanna was last seen fighting for the flyweight title. And someone who has struggled making the strawweight limit before. So, you know, she's big for the weight class. It seemed like, especially those clinches against the fence, it seemed like Joanna was using more strength and size than anything in order to hold Michelle Waterson there. And the crazy thing about it, too, Waterson had her moments in the striking exchanges. She landed some good kicks. She was able to effectively check Joanna's leg kicks as well. I mean, Joanna apparently broke her foot.
She used her kneecap.
One of those destruction knee checks. Yeah. So it was really a good performance as far as the technical aspects that Michelle was able to throw in there. But when you're fighting someone who is that skilled, and whose style doesn't mesh very well with yours anyway, and they're the bigger person, it's very hard to overcome those odds.
Yeah, I had the fight going. I actually thought it was closer than what I thought it was going to be. But I think JJ is focused on getting that belt back one more time. That would solidify her to be at the top 3 UFC women fighter of all time, easily. If you want to look at what you've done in the UFC, she'd be second behind Amanda Nunes, hands down, because she'd be the first woman to ever be a 2-time champion. I know Amanda Nunes is 2-division champion, but nobody's lost the belt and gotten it back.
Right.
So on either 145, 135, or 125, 115. So not that she's not a UFC Hall of Famer, but that would solidify her as one of the top 2 of all time.
Yeah, I mean that definitely would carry a lot of historical implications if she were to win the belt. And then so now this obviously sets up her number 1 contendership versus Weili Zhang. I mean that seems to be the direction that the promotion's moving in. I wouldn't be mad at Tatiana Suarez getting that shot, but I kind of think the big money is going to be riding with Joanna Jacek versus Weili Zhang. Whether you put that in China, whether you put that in Vegas, I mean that sounds like a big fight. That sounds like a fight with huge implications just for the history of women's fighting in the UFC.
Sure, but most definitely, for the go through the, I'm just going through the main card. Even though, what do you think about these fighters, man, that don't make no adjustments, and when they go to the cards, they just feel like they just got so robbed, like in the Max Griffin fight. He didn't make any adjustments, and it could have been anybody's fight. You could easily score it 29-28 for Max, or you could score it 29-28 for Alex Morano. It's like it wasn't a robbery either way. It's like you didn't do anything to say this is my effing fight. Neither fighter did. So how can you get mad if you don't get the decision?
I mean, I think it's kind of the age-old thing we say about close fights. We can look at the social media timeline whenever there's a close fight, and how many times does the word robbery pop up? And and this fight is fixed, and the judges, and this, and it's always a bunch of foolishness that just ignores one simple fact: it's a close fight. If you can acknowledge that a fight is close, it's hard to then say it's a robbery. Max Griffin versus Alex Moreno was a very close fight, and quite frankly, I'm not mad. However, you scored that, and I get it from Max's perspective because I'm not privy to what his corner was saying to him. Who knows what his corner could have been telling him that he's easily winning, and he believed them. They're like we've seen a lot of bad moves by corners as far as the in between round advice that's given. So maybe that falls into this category. And also we know fighters have this irrational self-confidence that makes them believe that they're always winning. So when you consider that, yeah, Max Griffin probably feels like he got robbed, but from the outside looking in, no, that was just a close fight that he just didn't get the nod on.
Right. And before we get deep in the card, Alexander Usyk on the boxing side stopped Chaz Witherspoon in his heavyweight debut, fighting real heavyweight and a legit contender, and I'll take you serious. That was the zone and the boxing action. We're not ignoring that, but this UFC Tampa card we had a lot more fresher stuff to talk about, so that's what we're going straight into. And then we can work our way up from here. The Mike Davis Thomas Gifford fight. What was his corner thinking, man? They were trying to get that man killed.
Yeah, his corner should be ashamed of himself. The referee,
very.
Yeah, the referee. If I'm forgetting his name right now, what was his name?
I get him mixed
then
up.
Then again, he doesn't deserve any credit. We're not even gonna blast that man's name. That man was trash. That referee and that corner should be ashamed of themselves. And shout out to the Florida Commission for pulling him off the rest of the card. He was supposed to be the third man in the cage in the Nico Price and James Vick fight. Thank God that they pulled him out before that fight. Can you imagine if he was the ref with that same mentality going into that fight? Nico Price would still be beating James Vick's head in. Like it just that was just ugly, man. And especially considering a fight on the USAC undercard. Gentleman now is in a coma right now, critical condition. Like, this is not a joke. This is not a game. I wish the corners and the officials in mixed martial arts took the same mentality that a lot of boxing corners take, and that is preserve your guy to fight another day.
Yeah, they don't do that in boxing and all. I mean, in MMA and all. What I don't understand is when you have a fight and this person's not going to win, and they just hold on that one chance. I don't get that.
I mean, the Davis and Gifford fight was so exceptionally one-sided. I mean, I had the fight ended up going to decision, every round was a 10-8 as far as I was concerned. That first round, your man got battered. He got beat on the feet, just annihilated on the feet. The round ended with him on the ground, turtled up, just taking unanswered blow after unanswered blow. At that point, Michael Bisping and Brendan Fitzgerald and Trevor Whitman, who are doing the commentary for the event, were all three like, the corner needs to figure out what's up right here. They might want to start tossing towels. And to see that fight, to see him answer that bell for the next round, kind of disheartening. But you're like, all right, maybe there's something. But when you saw a minute into that second round and it's more of the same, and he's getting battered, and the only thing keeping him conscious is his ungodly toughness, that's a bad day at the office, man. Everybody should be ashamed of themselves for that. The only person who should be proud of that, besides Mike Davis, of course, is the only person who should be proud of that is Thomas Gifford, because he showed himself to be a true fighter, but to the point where someone needs to protect him from himself. That was tough to watch. Think about this. Normally when you see a faceplant KO, how exciting is it?
Yeah.
I had a sense of dread when he face planted. It literally made my heart sink. That was disgusting.
You gotta be like you a little too strong, but there's no reason that thing should have went past the first bit of the second round. Why? When they gonna say, in boxing rules they have you can't be saved by the bell. More and more people are getting saved by the bell in MMA. Like it's to me, what the first big high-profile fight I remember happened was T.J. Dillashaw and Cody Garbrandt won. Cody
Mm-hmm.
Garbrandt hurts it because like what they ought to be some protocol like your corner came in, you have to physically walk over and sit on that stool yourself without any assistance or something. To
Yeah,
they got to have some. I know it's not in the rule book now, but they got to have something like that because too many people get saved by the bell. Like that prime example, T.J. Dillashaw recovered in that little 45 seconds and ended up, as we know, whooping Cody Garbrandt's ass. So I'm not trying to say you stop the fight, but you have to have some protocol because people are getting saved by the bell way too much.
yeah, it's
Yeah.
definitely a fine balance. It's certainly a balance that can be found. There is a way to try to preserve the visceral aspect of the sport, the danger and kind of the excitement behind it, while at the same time not unnecessarily jeopardizing the health and safety of the men and women that compete. I think back to like the Tim Kennedy Yoel Romero fight. That was
Yeah,
another one.
that's Bob. That's Bob example.
Right, but of course it took a little trickery in that corner to extend the time to get Romero healthy enough to recover. I mean, the problem I think a lot of times is that there are fighters who every so often will defy expectations and make that miracle happen. You think of Pete Sell versus Scott Smith or something like that, but that just doesn't happen very often. Like the probability of that happening compared to the probability of you taking unnecessary brain trauma and ruining yourself for the next times out. The risk reward just isn't there, man. Like a lot of times these corners just gotta know when to cut their losses and say, all right, it's time to just take it on the chin and fight another day.
Right. And before we get to the main card, did you watch most of this stuff live?
Yeah, I watched the whole card live.
Okay.
Yeah, there
And
was
did
some.
you highlight in the Max Griffin fight? They got our guy Safe Hasid from 40 MMA.
Yeah,
Saying he calls the shot and boom, dude hurts Max brutally. And if he had about 10 more seconds, would have got him out of there. It was like you can't time that even better. He calls a little shot. They said no, this dude throws a 2-piece and a head kick, and then all three of them, and Max was on Wobble Street. You remember that in that fight?
yeah, man. I mean, Fortis MMA is just batting 1,000 right now. That team is doing some amazing things. I mean, they also had a win later in the card. Ryan Spann, who
and I didn't like the way he fought.
you don't like the way he fought.
That's not gonna get you. That when you start fighting the elite dudes in that division, and that like heavyweight, you can't make no mistakes like that. Like he was way too casual in the first round, and then he got him about it in the second round. But the way he came out so casual, you find somebody leading the league, they're gonna let you find that next gear because they're gonna get your ass up out of there.
Yeah, it's true, but I mean, every fighter kind of has their own process to kind of getting in the rhythm of the fight, and I'm sure with the way that team is being so well coached, that is something that will be addressed in the training room. I would be very surprised if Ryan Spann comes out the next time with the same sort of lackadaisical approach in the opening minutes. So. I mean, that was an excellent victory by him against Devin Clark. So definitely also an important fight for 205 because now we're starting to see a real division get fleshed out beyond the top 3 or 4 names that have made that division for quite some time. So very interesting stuff going on at 205. So I'm excited to see what's next there.
And then we go to the main card. I had Eric Anders winning, but that last round could have easily went to I don't know my
Jared Marshart, yeah.
Yeah, it could have easily. He had a legit gripe. Like this was closer than the than the Max Griffin fight, if you ask me.
Yeah, I agree. I actually had Marshart winning this fight. And it was another case where like I'm not mad that it went the other way.
Second and third round, you had it for Marshart?
Yeah, I had it for Marshart. Yeah. Off the top of my head, I'm not remembering my what rounds. I want to say I gave the second and third to Marshart. If I'm not mistaken, yeah.
The third round was the swing round for sure. The money was on it.
Yeah, and it ended up being a good fight. I mean, Eric Anders definitely, I think he definitely needed that win, despite he did have a knockout win in his previous fight. I think Eric Anders is kind of at a race to separate himself from being a true mixed martial artist and someone of the caliber of like Ovince St. Preux, where their existence is solely based on athleticism and a football career, as opposed to true development as a mixed martial artist.
Right. Yeah, he has one of the coolest nicknames, your boy.
Yeah, that is a cool nickname. Yeah, I like. But the coolest nickname on the card, Luis Pena, Violent Bob Ross. This is a fight where I really was totally against what the judges were saying.
I didn't really see. That's one out of the main card. I know the Favola got the decision. I didn't see, but what I heard, it was the opposite of that other one. Like, he won the first two clearly, and the third one could have been either way.
Yeah, the third one could have been either way. Pena definitely won the first two, and I say the second one should have been a 10-8 round. He almost had him finished a couple of times in that fight. In fact, especially there was one sequence where he kind of faked a jab, I think it was, and then he went into a flying knee and it caught him flush on the chin.
Yeah, I saw. I literally turned it back because I was going back and forth trying college football. I did see the flying knee laying him. It made that little
kind of that cork sound went through the arena on that one, man. It's amazing that Favola was able to survive that. Credit to him for enduring and fighting through it, but it just looked like Luis Pena was running away with this fight, and then it's almost like he took his foot off the gas pedal in that last round, assuming that he was up, and Favola was able to do enough to convince 2 out of the 3 judges that he deserved the nod.
Yeah, it's always funny to me when somebody think they got robbed to get up out of there. I actually felt bad for Luis. Like, he had what the fuck? He had that. He got up out of there. And it was like, oh.
Yeah, because really, at best for Favola, I'm scoring that a draw at best, because that second round should have been a 10-8. It should have been a 10-8. I don't think you could have a more clear 10-8 round than that. Like, that was. He got beat down real bad throughout the entire bit of that 5 minutes, and was almost finished, and got himself caught in some weird submissions and everything. It just was not looking good for him, especially in that second round. So I think he earned a little bit of favoritism from the judges somehow or another. Just the MMA guys were smiling on him and his record last night.
And I move up to the next one, the rematch Dern. I think Mackenzie Dern needs to go on and move to 125. She got exposed. Her power does not translate to strawweight, and we all know about the cut. That's kind of crazy to have a kid helped her make the cut easy, because they said her body's a transition, and being a mom and nursing and all that. But she just looked like an amateur out there fighting. Like the way she was the telegraphing her shots. She looked a bit slow. And like, once she couldn't get the thing on the ground, she kind of looked defeated too.
Man, she didn't look like a mixed martial artist. She looked like a jiu-jitsu player who stepped in the cage, and that's a problem. Like, Mackenzie Dern has a sneakily powerful right hand, and she knows that. And it was kind of like she went in that cage knowing, okay, I'm going to hit her with my right hand, and then I'm going to get a submission somehow, and without any sort of in between, without any sort of plan B. So to see Amanda Hebus out there with decent footwork, with a good jab, with a variety to her striking, and granted, she has her own grappling credentials, but Dern just didn't have the wrestling to get the fight where she wanted. She didn't have the boxing or the kickboxing to safely go into the range where you need to grab a hold of somebody. So it showed the difference between a one-dimensional fighter and a mixed martial artist. And this is what happens. 9 times out of 10, the one-dimensional fighter will be exposed for having that one dimension.
Yeah, she definitely got exposed. And then the Nico Price, James Vick. James, he came on the show. Matt gets mad when I say this, but like unofficial but real status, like somebody's either been on the show or we've done business with or interviewed or whatever, and you try to come back, hey, you want to come back on the show? They don't reply, or they send an email, I'm not coming on or whatever. They lose at a high rate. So James used to come on. Since he stopped coming on, he has not won. That's a fact.
So,
So I don't wish him bad things. He didn't pick up the phone, so I knew something bad was gonna happen. But man, James, I need you A, to pick up the phone so we can get you back on this win streak, and B, man, hope you're healthy, because like the knockouts he's gotten have been highlight reel. The last 3 times he's on somebody's highlight reel. He ain't just getting knocked out; he's getting highlight reels, and he's on the wrong end of them.
big time to be on the business end of some seriously viscerally disturbing knockouts in such a short span of time. Like, I think when he got knocked out by Justin Gaethje, it was just over a year ago, maybe.
Yeah,
and in that amount of time,
he came back again.
Yeah, he got knocked out by Dan Hooker in July, and then this fight, and then of course he had a tough one with Paul Felder. So, yeah, James Vick, I think, needs to reevaluate several things. First off, he shouldn't be stepping foot in the cage again until next summer, if that. Like, he needs to take some serious time off. And during that time off, I think it'd be best for him to retool his game. I think he needs to break away from his current coaching staff, go somewhere to plug the holes in his game, because he still is leaving that chin wide open in the air. He's still not using his ridiculous reach and range properly.
He's very small to be that long. And another thing I don't understand is he went from training at Lloyd Irvin's. Now he's all in Thailand and going to the. It's I'm not seeing what you're doing, but I'm seeing the result happening. Well, he step in that cage.
He still had Lloyd Irving in his corner for this one, and I kind of think that might be part of the problem. Lloyd Irving fighters traditionally don't make it past a certain point in the UFC. They get to a point where we start talking about them as possible contenders, and then it stops. Look at a guy as talented as Mike Easton. Like, his career plateaued at a certain point, and he went from, I think he was the fight that TJ Dillashaw had to set up his eventual title challenge, and that was kind of the best his career ever went. And there've been several, Sajara Eubanks, I think, is someone else whose development kind of stalled out under Lloyd Irvin. So there's a history of fighters. I quite honestly, I think it's only a matter of time for Sadiq Youssef to realize that and go somewhere else where he can more well round himself out.
That guy there, he's got something.
Yeah, he's definitely got some. He's a really talented guy, and I think it would be a shame for someone with that level of talent too. And I understand the loyalty in the camp, and Sadiq Youssef being a guy who lives in the DC metropolitan area. That's where I grew up at as well. So yeah, Lloyd Irving, despite the controversy surrounding his name and the amount of criticism he receives within the MMA bubble, he is someone who's very important to the martial arts scene in DC. So I do understand a certain level of loyalty to that, especially living in that area. But you got to think the long term of your career. It may not be best to stay at home. So branching out might be the best thing for Sadiq Youssef, like it's probably going to be the best thing for James Vick as well. And he's got enough time where he should be on the shelf to start adding some other elements to his game and cleaning up some of those technical holes. I hope he doesn't. And I don't want to skip past the fact that you just essentially revealed that you are, in fact, one of the MMA gods. If you can grant the power of James Vick's wins and losses by appearances on the show, I think the phone's going to start ringing for y'all to get guests on the show, man. Because if you want to win, you call Matt Wells, you call Kendrick Johnson, and you get yourself on the Slip and Dip podcast. If you want your career to elevate, you call these men, and they put you on. The MMA guys will look over you.
I'm not gonna throw out a name, but somebody recently, a female fighter, recently lost the first fight of her career. Been on the show, hadn't been back on. Had some outside the cage stuff, trying to get that out, trying to help her out. Didn't pick up 2 times, took that L. I
have a feeling now. I think I know who you're talking about.
I'm just throwing that. That's a fact. Once again, you can't make this up.
Man,
that's I don't subscribe to that theory, but there's some stats that I can prove. One person that's broke that logic. He didn't fight last night. I saw him in the crowd. He's actually won 2. since then. But other than that, it's not. He's the outlier.
Well, I'm sure that man will be calling you to book himself for next week. So stay tuned. Next week, you and Matt gonna have a fine lineup of guests who hope to challenge for titles in the near future. All right, man. So what you think of that co-main event?
I think it was overrated. Like, dude, Carl Gacy don't got no hands. It was like he was a more glorified version of McKenzie. He stood in the pocket, but it's like it was more toughness than any skill or anything. It's like I'm not going out like no punk, but Cubs' best days are behind him. And wrestling terms, he said some mid Carter at this stage of his career.
Yeah, I don't really see anything different from that, man. Like Cub, I picked against Cub Swanson for this fight, and it wasn't because I thought very highly of Kron Gracie as a mixed martial artist. It's just because Cub is, unfortunately, he's just not what he used to be. His best days are very clearly behind him. He came in this on a 4-fight losing streak. And then also too, he has this tendency of being a knucklehead. And when I say that, I mean like being the guy who's going to engage you where you're the strongest because fuck it, because whatever, that's what I feel like doing. And I think when you do something like that against a jiu-jitsu player the caliber of Kron Gracie, and you have your own jiu-jitsu black belt, and you've got a beef with him that's years old, centered around the jiu-jitsu world, yeah, I think that's the sort of thing that makes someone's ego take over, and they do things that they're not supposed to do. But Cub, he defied that instinct, and he went in there and showed a complete mixed martial arts game against a guy who was still doing the Royce Gracie like knee stomp.
And he I don't know how many times he what's it called? When
you try to pull guard and yeah.
And he's like, no, we're not doing that.
With like zero wrestling setups. And like, yeah, he punched Cub a few times, and Cub started getting tired toward the third round. I mean, definitely Gracie has remarkable conditioning. I'd expect nothing less from a Diaz brother training partner, but like that cardio was great, except when you don't have any technique behind it, when you don't have an actual jab, when you don't have anything resembling, logical footwork. Just like the Mackenzie Dern fight, it showed the difference between a mixed martial artist and a one-dimensional fighter.
Yeah, they kept saying a single skill practitioner. They kept saying that last night.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's the thing. It's mixed martial arts. That means you got to mix something up with that jiu-jitsu in order for it to be even remotely effective at a high level.
Yeah, I got excited them talking about old school stuff with the Gracies and the Gracie train. It's like, okay, that was nostalgia. That's not 1994 no more. We moved on since all that. And the other thing, I like you said, Cub kept his head because I don't understand this is the guy's been. They know he's well respected in the MMA and jiu-jitsu world, and they wouldn't let him train because he's fighting a Gracie. Talking about that would be disrespectful to the code. Like, does it say in the book that if you fight a Gracie, you can't train jiu-jitsu? Like,
well, I mean, the jiu-jitsu world is.
Tournament. It wasn't a jiu-jitsu tournament though. It was. I can kind of understand if it was a jiu-jitsu tournament. So that's what they do. It's a mixed martial arts. So it's not even the same. It's like, it's just an element. It's not the sport. That's why I didn't get all that. It's like they were making drama to make drama.
Well, I mean, the jiu-jitsu world has its traditions, and I think we've seen this with the Gracie family ever since Royce, where it's this belief that all you need is Gracie jiu-jitsu. That's all you need, and that's the only thing that there was a point in time where the Gracie family was upset with Eddie Bravo because he was training no gi at 10th Planet. So they have this. I mean, even their break from the actual ownership stake that they had in the UFC in the early days was because they were adding weight classes, they were adding more rules, and it had to modernize, and they weren't ready to modernize. So now, as the sport has evolved, and this family has dogmatically stuck to their guns about what is and what isn't true Gracie Jiu-Jitsu, sport passes them by, which is why there hasn't been. I mean, Neiman is doing great things in Bellator right now, but for the most part, the Gracie family has been largely irrelevant in the higher levels of mixed martial arts for a full generation of fighters at this point.
Since I started watching, I ain't seen that of being relevant. I started watching, I think UFC 72 or 73. What number you would know this? That Rampage knocked out Chuck Liddell. I was the first UFC fight I ever watched.
What was I don't remember the number, but I'll look it up right now.
So they've been irrelevant since then because that's why I started watching UFC.
Yeah, that was 71. UFC 71. Yeah. Yeah, man. So, and we definitely shared our thoughts on the main event. So, overall, I think it was a good card. A lot of exciting finishes, a lot of good surprising results, some close fights that went back and forth. So I wasn't too mad at that. That wasn't a bad way to spend a Saturday night.
Yeah, most definitely. I like to see JJ get a shot. I think her being used to the skill to the big stage, and her knowing what I know Wade Lee's very fast. I think it benefits her. That's a style matchup that's to her benefit if she sees the champ.
Yeah, I really am excited for what that can.
It'd be a tough fight, but I think she gets the job done.
Yeah, see, the thing is, Weili Zhang is still kind of an unknown as far as what she's truly capable of. I mean, we've seen her in the UFC. 3 times now. The Tisha Torres fight proved that okay, she can wrestle. Obviously she has knockout power after what she did to Andrade, and you look at her career before the UFC, and she's had a variety of different sorts of finishes. But I'm curious as to what that looks like against someone like Joanna, who's shown herself to be an incredible anti-grappler. Someone who also, without, she doesn't have a lot of, one punch finishing power, but she can put it on you in accumulation and this never ending gas tank and good footwork and constant movement and variety in which she does. It should be a pretty exciting fight, and I'm willing to bet that's what the UFC does next for the strawweight belt.
I definitely will. Hopefully it's in Vegas so I can go see it because I ain't going no China.
Yeah, I won't make it to China, but if it's in Vegas, yeah, I'll see you there.
What's the first fight you recovered? I was looking up the other day, so it was just fresh in my head. The first fight I recovered was UFC 166, Kane and Dos Santos 3 in Houston, Texas, and it was October 19, 2013. So I'm coming on my 6-year anniversary of covering UFC.
Oh, nice. My first was UFC 214, Jones Cormier 2. And that was in 2017, July 2017, I believe.
I was supposed to go to that fight. Me and Matt had a bad story.
Oh,
I didn't go, and then so I would have been all up in that mix. I ended up getting sick like the day of the fight, and I had to I usually watch the fights at Hooters and stuff. That one I just going on and bit the bullet and watch the pay-per-view because I couldn't miss it because I couldn't get off my couch. I got like a touch of strip throat, so it was it was meant for me not to be in Vegas that week.
Actually, that was when it was in Anaheim, and I was hanging out with Matt during that fight week, and he was having a rough week. It was a rough week for Matt and the crew over there, man.
So I would be all up in that mix. It's that was a sign. It's you should have your ass right here. But here's a funny thing. I've still never seen John Jones fight live. I've been at 2 of the fights he got to spin in the week of.
Oh yeah.
So the original Cormier and the second Cormier, the one that got caught. Mm-hmm. Both times he got caught, he got pulled off. So I've interviewed him. I've never seen him fight live. So he's on my top list of person I got to see before they retire.
I covered his last 4 fights. I was at 214, then it was 232, then 235, and then 239. So I've seen a lot of John Jones lately. I've seen him quite a lot. His outfit, his post-fight outfits get more and more pimped out with every event. So I'm curious as to how flamboyant it's going to be next time.
And before we go, because me and Matt hadn't touched on the Adesanya and John Jones angle, he's definitely on John Jones' radar. But more than that, I think he's getting to him. When have you seen John Jones react to people? The fact that he's reacting to somebody that's not in his weight class, I mean, he's got his cage kind of shook a little bit.
Yeah,
directly, other than the DC don't count. That goes without saying. But other than DC, we've seen people heavyweight, people coming up. people that are not even remotely in. Some people that can outside the promotion, Bellator, talking noise about John Jones and he's Mr. Too Cool for School. But it's a lot different now when you see another brother, like he said, that freshman stealing your shine. He ain't feeling it. So there's something to that.
I agree that there's something to that because you look at the Cormier rivalry and that seems like something rooted in genuine two things: genuine competitiveness. Both fellas are championship guys who are used to winning, and they're willing to beat anybody who's standing in front of them to be declared number one. So just as a matter of just simple logic, those two personalities have to collide, and then you look at who they are as men and how they present to themselves in the public and what sort of personal lives that they're known to have. And they're diametrically opposed in every way, shape, and form. So you definitely can see how that can come to a head. Now with Israel Adesanya, I think it's sort of like looking in the mirror and not liking what you see. Because you see a guy who has been used to emulate John Jones in camps. Before he made it into the UFC, Israel Adesanya was called upon by the Black Zillions to imitate John Jones in preparation for what was supposed to be the Rumble Johnson fight, and you see a guy this tall, lanky black guy who has an exciting style and who's generating a serious buzz among the fan base and the media, and he's got these exciting fights now. It's like all the attention is heading that way, and then it's probably like, hey, I'm still over here. I'm still the greatest of all time. It's kind of a weird juxtaposition, and I think where we kind of had a similar thing happen on the opposite way with Anderson Silva and John Jones, where they kind of ran concurrently for a little bit, yeah. But Anderson Silva reached out and embraced John Jones as a friend and wanted to like kind of mentor him and whatnot. And we haven't seen John Jones kind of pay that forward in terms of like reaching out to Adesanya and anything like that. Not that he has to, but I think those simple things kind of play into these dynamics. Yeah, I mean, I'm sure that's not going to happen. And not that it necessarily has to, but you look at the approaches of an Anderson Silva, you look at the approach of a John Jones, and now look at how Israel Adesanya is kind of handling being part of the stratosphere. And then also keep in mind too, Adesanya and Anderson Silva developed some sort of like friendly symbiotic relationship based on their contest at 234.
Yeah, Matt swears that was a sparring session and that he let Anderson go the full 15.
I agree with that. I think that's not necessarily that he decided he was going to let him go the full 15, but
like a gentleman's agreement.
See, I wouldn't even call it like a gentleman's agreement. I would say like respectfully not wanting to kill your your idol. That's kind of what I thought of it like.
As good as this guy is, he showed me a lot in the Kelvin fight, but it's kind of like Earl Spence and Shawn Porter. Kelvin, he can sit there and say, I know I'm one of the best in the world. I know I can beat him. And he's not. That's bullshitting. And people are sleeping on our guy, Killer Gorilla, Derek Cannonier. He's that guy that for some reason when he hit people, that arena get quiet.
Yeah. Straight up and down, man, like I don't want to talk about the possibility of a John Jones and Israel Adesanya fight while we got a guy like Jared Cannonier out there. Like it's a stupid conversation to have. While we got like
and catch him with something crazy in the third or fourth round and put him to sleep. Because if he catches him the way Kelvin caught him, he put him to sleep because nobody survived Jared Cannonier's power at 185.
Yeah, I mean, when we got Paulo Costa out there, I don't want to talk about John Jones versus Israel Adesanya. We got Kelvin Gastelum and Darren Till about to fight each other on a fight while Darren Till isn't a guy who should be by merit's sake put into title contention at middleweight, if he beats Kelvin Gastelum, I think you have an instant contender. If he wins that fight and you got him out there, like I don't want to talk about John Jones versus Israel Adesanya. I want to talk about Israel Adesanya defending the middleweight title, and I want to see John Jones continue defending the light heavyweight or moving up to heavyweight. But maybe that fight happens in a couple years or maybe next year sometime. Fine, but it can't just be this cookie cutter super fight. Let's throw it together. Israel Adesanya just became a star. Let this man be a star. Let him go out there, defend that belt. Let him go out there, continue putting exciting performances on, and then we can start this super fight talk. This whole super fight thing has kind of pushed the idea of building up champions way in the backseat. It's crazy.
Here's two parts of that. One is because UFC don't let somebody defend a belt. Like, there's no reason Daniel Cormier shouldn't have the opportunity to defend both belts.
Yeah.
Two, without giving up one. And then two, like, for instance, the narrative now with the super fight era or whatever, the narrative on how what make somebody great. Say somebody comes in and goes on a Mighty Mouse John Jones type run. For them to be considered that guy of all time, they're going to have to challenge themselves and go outside that weight class. And especially since neither one of those guys did that. Because John Jones, if he really wants to be the undisputed GOAT, he's going to have to fight for the heavyweight belt and find a way to win it. Because he can say what he wants to say to DC. He's done it. Yeah, he lost the fight to Stipe, but he's done it. You got to do it more than one weight class. That's what makes, like, for instance, when they say something about Mayweather, they say something about Pacquiao, they don't say WBC, former welterweight champion, former WBA, 140 pound. They say 6 division champ, 8 division champ. That's what makes them.
Well, I mean, in boxing, it's a lot easier when there's a different weight class every 3 pounds. That's a whole nother story.
It's 7.
That's a whole nother story. When you're talking about the difference of anywhere from 10 to 15 to 20 to 60 pounds, like separating these weight classes, that's a whole nother story. I don't really think it's fair to put the multiple division thing on as a necessity to be in the GOAT conversations. It helps.
Because it was that easy, everybody be doing it. We got to have something to distinguish everybody. But it was that easy, everybody would be doing it.
But if it was that easy to stay in your division and defend contender after contender after contender after contender, everybody will be doing that too. There is a lot of difficulty in holding a belt for that long. Look at how Chris Weidman dethroned Anderson Silva. Weidman said from the start of his MMA training, all he ever wanted to do was beat Anderson Silva because that was the champion at the time and that was his goal. He literally worked his entire career to build up to that moment when he knocked out Anderson Silva. So when you are the king that long, people are literally crafting their careers based on you. It is a certain level of greatness to maintain that.
Right now that we don't know about. I keep telling Matt that right now that person's probably just starting their career. John Jones is 32. John Jones will get caught up by the time he's 35, 36. Because like we're already starting to see now the recreation and the lifestyles already. Because just like 3 years ago, he was finishing everybody. He's not finishing people no more. So you're already starting to see, because Matt disagrees with the Father Time theory. But Father Time, I would tell him, they don't just turn Father Time overnight, but you see something that you hadn't seen before, or something happened to them that you hadn't seen their whole career, like Cyborg. She starts showing signs, the fact that he was not rushing in and she was going a distance with girls. Then you see the man in Nunes, you see Father Time tap on that shoulder. You start seeing layers. Like John Jones is right. If he would get caught next year, they would see fight Reyes and he would get knocked out. I would be shocked if Father Time is coming on that corner due to his outside decay. It's just not going to happen overnight. Like, you're a bum, you need to retire. But you're going to see a little slippage that compared from what they were at their peak. Just that little bit that brings them back to normal. And that's what Father Time theory is about.
I mean, I think there is some truth to that, but I think John Jones isn't exactly that.
You need to not fight top 5 fighters or nothing like that.
No, but John Jones is not the right case study for that one. I mean, I think just as bad as his lifestyle has been overall, and the drugs and the partying and whatnot, and the detriment that has had on him, it's also given him some benefit because he's been inactive for long stretches of time where he hasn't been sustaining damage, where he hasn't aged in fight years. So there's a certain level of longevity in that. But then also, too, I believe that John Jones is the type of guy that plays to his competition. When he went and fought Thiago Santos, and I'm sure I'll catch a lot of flack for repeating a scorching hot take that I had in the wake of UFC 239, but he just seemed like somebody who just wanted to try something. Like, he decided, I'm fighting this Muay Thai expert. Let's see if I can beat him by only throwing kicks. Because like it, where he doesn't throw any punches for the most part, where he doesn't use his wrestling, and he's legit probably the best wrestler at 205. So it's a very interesting thing with John Jones, where I think we're kind of dissecting more mental layers as opposed to physical barriers that time or drugs or PEDs or anything else that you want to lump into the John Jones story is really doing to him.
The PEDs part is overlooked. One thing I trip out with PEDs, I'm a neutral person. You do your time, you do the crime, you do your time, it's good. But I trip out people pick and choose when they want to bring up. Like, you rarely hear PEDs associated with Anderson Silva since he's well beloved. But he clearly got caught multiple times. But that ain't none of my business, though, to quote my man Shannon Sharp. What is my business is like shit like John Jones. Like you said, he in ring time, that ass kind of helped him out. But like, you would think that cocaine or whatever is a deterrent. That gives you courage to do shit that you wouldn't even do on a regular day. So he doesn't take as many chances since he stopped having that quote unquote been part of his arsenal. So that there's something to that theory because you don't even take chances no more. He fights very conservative. Like, he used to do this crazy stuff. I ain't seen crazy stuff from him in the last 3 or 4 fights.
But he also has more to lose now. He's got more money. He's got he's got a lot more on the line in that case. And then also too, yeah, maybe there's something about that, because my thought process about Jones and his style of fighting and the way he would just try crazy things and stuff. I mean, you're talking about a person who lives in a very risk-adverse fashion. The sort of person who would decide to fight mixed martial arts having only learned striking from YouTube videos, and to just suddenly decide, you know what, I'm going to try a spinning elbow because why not? Or I'm going to try to jump and do this weird kick that I've seen in a movie. That is the same sort of mentality that might say, hey, yeah, I could go ahead and snort this line in the middle of training camp. I can have one too many drinks and get behind the wheel with these hookers in the back seat. Yeah, all right. What's the worst that can happen? Like that's the sort of mentality that kind of plays into that. So I do think there's truth in both ideologies, based on John Jones's performances as of late.
Definitely want to see him back in the cage. We get you on towards the end of the year for a recap show. We recap 2019, looking at 2020, because 2020 is going to be a very pivotal year for UFC, not just from in the cage, but with the whole finances.
Yeah.
And like, you're more up to date than me. Like, people don't realize that antitrust lawsuit is getting hot each month. More and more of that stuff come out.
Yeah, we've learned more about the UFC's inner workings on the business standpoint in the last several weeks than we have in the last 20 years.
Yeah, whoever that dude that's right though, I don't even see. I'm about to read the long stuff. Props to that guy. Good stuff. I like these. I'm like, man, I won't read it all at one time. I read like 5 minutes here, 5 minutes there. But I read the whole thing. That man's on his shit. Props to him.
Yeah, I know. I'm hoping I'm not getting the names wrong, but yeah, great work by John Nash, Paul Gift, Jason Cruz also, and Patrick Auger, who are kind of the guys on the front lines, really putting out good work as far as this antitrust suit is concerned. And it's a lot of legalese. It's a lot of complex business language,
papers and stuff.
Right. So I'm reading all this stuff and trying to dissect and trying to understand it as much as possible. And I think they all four of them have done a great job in trying to communicate these complex ideas to a layman, to someone who has no advanced business knowledge. I know fights. That's it. Yeah. So I know something about comic books and
well, when they're like Frank Fertitta on Valentine's Day 2012 said Dana, fuck him. And something happens like a week later that, we wonder what happened. It all adds up when you start looking back at the history around those texts and stuff. It's crazy though how spot on that stuff was.
Yeah, so 2020 should be an interesting year for the direction of the company for a variety of reasons. And 2019 definitely has been crazy so far. I'm looking forward to jumping on that recap show with y'all, and because I know just for my personal experience covering the sport, I've been at some of the biggest cards so far this year, and I've seen some really crazy stuff. I mean, I was 30 feet away from Masvidal kneeing Ben Askren, and and both John Jones title defenses, and Nunes knocking out Holly Holm, and Cormier losing his belt and whatnot. It's been some really incredible things that I witnessed. I can't wait to talk to you all about it later on.
All right, props to that. Because as many ways you doing that, I've been doing it on the boxing side, but I'm about to get back into doing both. But before we go to the interviews, the whole BMF thing is stupid.
Yes, it
Hey,
is.
we got two people that haven't won a fight. So not won a fight. My bad. Haven't won a title. So it's like, why do they still have this notion that's so antiquated that they have to have a belt on the line in the main event? As many shows as they have, they can go a pay-per-view without having a belt on the line. That's so antiquated. Especially when they gonna get the money already. It's not like, well, we're gonna have to pay such and such. Like, they got enough money to pay Jorge Masvidal a couple more mil, or Nate Diaz a couple more mil. I don't understand what the problem is.
Yeah, I'm not quite sure what's going on with this, but here's my hope, and I'm probably going to get killed in the comments for saying this, but I do have logic behind it. I hope that this fight determines the number one contender for the undisputed welterweight title, for one reason. Because it's in my opinion that the true BMF is the champion. Now, if Nate or Jorge wins this fight and they go on carrying this belt over their shoulder and go on and fight the winner of Usman and Covington, well, then the winner of that fight has merged the BMF belt with the undisputed title. Therefore, the BMF belt is the undisputed title, and we can do away with this BMF nonsense. And we can just let it go, because it is a funny thing. It was a funny thing when Nate was talking about it. It was a funny thing when Jorge was talking about it. But I stopped laughing when they said they were actually making a belt. I straight up stopped laughing, because what I'm afraid of is this BMF title, which already is already a fan favorite, with Nate Diaz and Jorge Masvidal fighting for it in the main event in MSG. Like, this is as big as it really gets for two guys who aren't exactly challenging for a title right now. But the fans. No, I won't be there.
Man, you got to, man.
Yeah, I won't. I'm gonna be.
And I went to Connor at 205, and I went to 213, or the one with Joanna Loss and TJB.
Yeah, the Rose.
And,
yeah.
ESP. I went to that one, and then going back there last week with Triple G. That stuff is real. The Garden atmosphere and that whole New Yorkness, that stuff is real. I've been there 3 times and saw 3 crazy ass cards and craziness that you just like, wow, did I just see that? Yeah. That atmosphere is not overrated. Oh, the Mecca and all that. That stuff is real, bro. I challenge you to go.
I'm looking forward to making it there. My travel is pretty much shot for the foreseeable future with my wife expecting. So I'm glued to Los Angeles for the next few months at least. But yeah, man. But what I'm afraid of is there's already a lot of fan activity, a lot of fan support for the BMF title, for the 2 gentlemen who are fighting for that BMF title. Now, what happens if that belt doesn't determine who's the next number one contender, and then you have this belt that the fans really like that doesn't really mean anything, and now you've devalued the actual title even more? So now, if you're in the welterweight division, are you fighting to win the belt and be the best in the world, or are you fighting to get this toy that The Rock gets to put around your waist?
He said this toy. That's why I keep telling Matt that they need to have lineal champions, so that when they make up these interim, like for instance, like when Dustin Poirier and Habib fight, because he wasn't undisputed champion, there's a interim belt. He would have been a lineal champion. You always know. That's why Tyson Fury is relevant in heavyweight, because he had all the belts and had the cocaine and stuff and got stripped, but he did beat the man that was officially the best fighter, the world champion of all time. Therefore, he was a lineal champion, and nobody's beating him to be that champion. That's why, as much as Deontay Wilder, Anthony Joshua, Andy Ruiz, they got these belts. Somebody's going to have to beat him to be that man. They need to do that in MMA, but they don't, because they be making up shit like this. If they didn't do this, they could get away with not having a lineal champion. But you got gimmick belts like this. You got the interim belt because somebody has a bad. They out for 2 months and they want them to fight, so they want to put on a title fight. They put on this interim stuff. That's how you lose who's the real champion, and you can't call someone undisputed when there's multiple champions in that weight class. So the best way to do that is to have a lineal champion. And this whole BMF thing too, there shouldn't be no weight classes either with it. That's another thing. If they really want to do it like as gimmicky as it is, it shouldn't be no weight class. You can fight unless you have like something crazy. You can't have
You
have
can
like
have Derek Lewis fighting for the
fight,
BMF title
yeah,
against Nate Diaz, like
yeah. But if you BMF is like, so you got to be a certain weight class, like that eliminates heavyweights right there. Like it's too gimmicky.
I mean, it's a nice coincidence that it is between two men who have bounced between welterweight and lightweight, the two most competitive divisions and stacked with talent. So there's something to that. I mean, you could throw a Justin Gaethje or a Cowboy Cerrone or Tony Ferguson or somebody like that in with this BMF mix, and it makes some form of sense. But
Can you be a BMF
I
without being a striker though? Because basically BMF being like you strike all time, all so
Khabib, I think, would have something to say about that.
Yeah.
But that's what I'm saying. Like the BMF of the UFC is the champion right now at 170. The baddest man at 170 is Kamaru Usman, and before that was Tyron Woodley, and before that it was Robbie Lawler. So that's the BMF. That's the guy who has proven himself to be the baddest guy against the baddest guys.
My man he can get amped up off this BMF.
Yeah, man. I mean, it's all fun and games, but when the UFC is trademarking it, where it's like they're saying it's not going to be a future thing, but we know better. We're smarter than that, Dana. Like this is, yeah. I'm smelling something foul right now in the kitchen. I think this is something that we're gonna get stuck with unless this becomes a number one contender fight, and then it merges into the undisputed title, and we can be done with the BMF nonsense.
Hey, that's awesome, man. Anthony Walker for sure, dog, man. Thanks for joining me, man.
Always, man. Always a pleasure.
Please hit the notification button, click that subscribe button, help us grow the show. We have people like Anthony Walker, Shawn Porter on the box side, on the MMA side. We've had Daniel Cormier on. We hit you. I challenge everybody. I always tell people behind the scenes, find me a podcast that's not natural that's had Deontay Wilder and Daniel Cormier on. Hey, send us a message. I'll wait. Please welcome back to the Slip and Dip podcast. One of the best fighters in the world, one of the best humans you can possibly meet. Showtime, Shawn Porter. We have a saying on the Slip and Dip podcast: you ball, you get the call. Usually means you won your fight or you won what you had going on, but this man's winning in and out the ring. Props to you, man. I know you wanted the decision, but of all the fights I've covered in my little 5-6 years, y'all number 2. The only one that's got y'all is I was at Ward Kovalov 1 when Ward had to win the last 6 rounds to get the belt. But props to y'all. My dad told me to tell you how. He said, man, he said he was gonna make me a fan. He said next time he fight, I gotta watch, regardless if he fight Earl or not. So you got you another fan.
Man, listen, man. As always, I'm glad to get on the line with you. But we about 2 weeks away from that fight now, man, and it's still pretty amazing and surreal. What me and Earl did just a couple weeks ago, man. It still feels amazing to be in this position right now.
There's no such thing as a win loss, but is it crazy that everybody either wants you to fight Earl again in a rematch or fight Terrence Crawford, and those are 2 biggest names. Like for you not to have a belt, you're in a catbird position.
Yeah, very, very much so, because that's the crazy part. A lot of times people say if you don't have the belt, then I don't want to fight you. But for me to be in this position I'm in right now, it's like no one cares whether or not I have a belt. And when I say no one, it's not the fighters, but anyone putting on the fights. The promoters out there, the managers out there, everyone is like, we want Shawn Porter to fight, and we want to see him in the ring with whoever we can get him in the ring with, whether or not he has a belt. So, even though I'm not a unified champion like I wanted and thought I would be, and even though I didn't win the fight the other night, it still feels very much so like I'm a winner.
So, have you seen the? I'm sorry.
Oh no, you go ahead, Kendrick.
Have you seen the fight on tape?
No,
go back and look at it.
I was speaking to somebody today, and I said, man, I'm about to ramp up and start doing these interviews. I need to check this fight out so I can be prepared to talk about it. But I still very fresh in my mind, but I haven't watched it yet on TV.
For me, is I've been to like 5, 6 year fights. I've seen you beat people pretty handily, and I still would say that's the best I've seen Shawn Porter. But as you know, by being in Las Vegas with you 11 weeks out, I wasn't surprised. I
Yeah,
kept telling people in Dallas, I'll
yeah,
tell people in New York, how
yeah.
you know? I'm like, y'all want to call me the expert, and I'm trying to tell you what's going to happen, and they didn't want to listen to me. On the flip side is, what else could you have done different? Because you did everything you could and you did things that nobody's ever done to him. So like, what else could you do? That's what I
Yeah,
would think if I was in your
you know,
position.
if that 11 round, if I don't get
Oh,
throwing a punch and getting if I don't get caught in the midst of throwing a punch and my hand doesn't touch the canvas, I think the decision goes a different way. That's really and I think that's the one thing that people lose track of is when you have two great anythings against one another. You're not supposed to have a landslide victory. You're not supposed to. It's not supposed to be a one-sided show. Both guys or both athletes, all whoever's doing it, they're supposed to show up and be great, and the greatest is supposed to prevail. So even in this fight, I felt like I was winning most of the rounds, but clearly most of the rounds were close as well. And you say, well, what could you have done different? I mean, really, outside of a knockdown in the 11th round of a 12-round fight, along the way, there's really not much we wanted to do any different. There really was one adjustment my dad asked me to make. One round, he told me to use your jab more, start using your jab more. I came out and I popped my jab more. There were really small adjustments throughout the fight, but nothing major. We didn't. There was never a major glitch that we ran into during the fight, which is what you need in the fight against such a great fighter like Errol Spence. You need to have a flawless night, and in a lot of ways we were headed towards that flawless night outside of the 11th round.
Did the fight meet your expectations at all? Is like the difficulty level or the speed of it or the pace? Anything about it? Did it surprise you? Anything you did in there?
Mm, there wasn't anything that surprised me at all. The body shots that he threw, I expected to come. I think maybe I expected him to press a little bit more than he did. He didn't press me as much as I thought he would. He stayed whenever I was moving. He stayed right in front of me, which is what I expected. But I actually expected him to close the distance a little more. But one thing that I saw when he fought Mikey Garcia in the first two rounds, it seemed like he had a lot of respect for Mikey. So I felt like if I came out and started out fast and showed him Shawn Porter, then he would have that kind of respect through the fight. And I think that kind of handled itself as well. I think he wasn't quite as aggressive as he usually is, and I think it's because he did have a lot of respect for the offensive game that I was bringing to him. Outside of that, man, there wasn't really anything that surprised me at all. The speed of the fight was about what I expected, and the excitement of the fight was I'm very proud of the excitement that came through that fight.
So you did say that you haven't gone back and rewatched the fight, but I was reminded of your fight against Keith Thurman, which is on my list of all
Yeah,
time favorite fights. Now,
yeah.
just from your memories of both fights, which one seemed the most difficult? Which one seemed like a bigger moment for you?
Honestly, Keith Thurman was the more difficult fight, and I'll tell you why. Keith brought a lot of different dimensions to the ring that night. He moved a lot, but then Keith will try to get you off balance and then throw the big blows. So Keith. A lot of the fight it's a balancing act with Keith. One thing we did expect of Errol, no disrespect to Errol, but we expected Errol to just be really clean. 1-2 coming straight forward, 1-2 body shot. Nothing really unorthodox or or difficult. Even though he's a really good fighter, he's just really great at the fundamental side of boxing. So I think that while Keith was more difficult, I think the fights for I think the fight with Errol Spence was a little bit more exciting. I think for the fans than the fight with Keith Thurman. Not by much, but I think it was a little bit more exciting. I think
so
the I think this fight with Errol, I think it was kind of that. everybody, it was, it was the element of surprise. What's gonna happen, and once people started to see Showtime fight back and Showtime have a different type of offense, and hit Arrow and things like that, I think it made the fight more exciting.
So if you had to see one of them again for your career, I know you would prefer to see both of them one more time. But if you had to pick one, like you only gonna get one rematch, which one would you get?
I'm honestly, I'm gonna go with Keith Thurman, and the reason I'm gonna go with Keith Thurman is no secret what Errol Spence has been through in the last couple of days. I think, and let's remember that they both now have been in car accidents. I think Keith's car accident was not as
That's
severe by
severe.
any means, and I think that even when Keith got into his accident, I said I didn't want to fight Keith unless he was 100%, and all of the doctor visits and all that kind of stuff showed that he was 100%. I think it's going to be a long time before Earl Spence is 100%, and I would hate to be the one to dethrone him, and not that he would make an excuse, but there is that factor now that he has been in a tremendous accident, and I think that there's a lot of doubt and a lot of questions right now, and I think there will be for some time regarding his health and his how he performs in the ring.
Yeah. Would you mind just kind of taking us back to the moment you found out about his
Uh,
accident, just as
uh,
a
uh,
I woke.
but before you answer, I can give you some behind side. Sean reached out to me and some other people in Dallas behind the scenes to try to see
Yeah,
what happened. But one thing that tripped me out is you just being the great guy you are. Like I said, more props to you and Earl for representing African American males,
yeah,
just how to be a professional on the big stage.
yeah,
But one thing I trip out is people were like very surprised that you were so seriously concerned. It's
yeah,
like that. It's just a sport, and like I was trying to get that across in my question to y'all in the post, right? And they still don't get it. They don't understand. Like y'all knew it's like business. I knew y'all gonna have to do business. Y'all don't want nothing to happen even during the fight, especially the way that was like you were like legitimately concerned. Sometimes people gotta see that hey, you are a great guy, not just a
yeah.
great champion.
I think for
So
the
props
most
to you.
yeah, thank you. Well, I think for the most part you guys see a pretty calm and cool, collected Shawn Porter for the most part. You may see me get excited. I mean, in the promotion where Earl, you definitely saw me get excited and get a little bit outside of myself more than usual. But for the most part, I'm always pretty even kill. When I wake up about 5 o'clock in the morning, I have these text messages telling me that Errol Spence has been in a severe car accident. I got up immediately, and I'm like, I mean, my heart was pounding. I was really fearful because the reports were that the report that I saw said that he was ejected out of the car, and it said he was driving a Ferrari. So like in my mind, obviously I don't know if he landed on grass. I don't know if he landed next to a tree, gravel. I don't know but the fact that he had been ejected out of the car blew my mind. And I mean, like I woke up, I was nervous. My heart was going a little bit. My heart was going a little bit. No problem. Thank you. My heart was going a little bit, and I immediately, like you said, Kendrick, I immediately tried to just figure out what was going on with them. The reports I'm getting now is that he's okay. Some chopped up teeth and some bruises, but for the most part, I hear that he's gonna be okay, which is first, that's first and last on my list, is that he's okay. We were talking about a rematch. Right now at this point, I don't think there's any point in talking about anything other than his health.
It's crazy the fact that he got ejected saved his life. That's
Oh
the crazy thing
yeah,
about
yeah.
it.
I mean, I saw how
Because
smack the car was. You more than likely correct that him being ejected saved his life.
Yeah, so yeah, I mean I would even say, I know you said you got a little beside yourself in the build up to that fight. From my perspective, it looked like a respectful version of trash talk between both of you. It looked like there was a lot of mutual respect, but just kind of poking and prodding just for the sake of the entertainment part of it. How much of that was genuine?
I'm a big fan of seizing the moment, and in this game, we never know when our last shot's gonna be. So by this being pay per view and a big fight on Fox pay per view and all that kind of stuff, I'm like, man, I'm soaking all this up, man. I'm going out there to have fun before, during, and after. And this is one of the few fights that I've actually had a chance to enjoy promotion and talk a little bit of trash and still keep it respectful and be honest to myself, honest to everyone out there, and say what I feel in my heart and on my mind. And I think for the most part it was all genuine from both of us. I think there was some things that I commented on in the post fight press conference. He was asked the question if there was anything that surprised him, and he answered it. He said, "No, for the most part, I knew Shawn Porter was a dog, and he was a dog all night." And I leaned in and I said, "The skills surprised you, didn't they?" And he said, "Yeah, the skill. I can say it now because it's after the fight." So I think for the most part, he tried to be genuine with everything as well. Play up what he could play up, play down what he wanted to play down. I think he played up the fact that I'm a dirty fighter and played down the fact that he was. And he comes into the ring that night throwing quite a few low blows, which was a little. I was like, all right, this is kind of fight going. I'm like, all right. So but I'm the kind of guy that the funny thing is he said I was a dirty fighter, but I'm the kind of guy that no matter what, I always try to be fair and do what I can to win the fight. And even when he threw low blow after low blow, my mind, the only thing on my mind was winning the fight, and it wasn't staying clean and not being dirty or not being dirty back or not reacting to anything. The only thing my mind is wrapped around is winning the fight, and that for me does not entail throwing elbows, throwing low blows, throwing headbutts or anything like that at all. I try to fight a clean, good fight, and I think everybody recognize that and respect that.
So being, kind of being called a dirty fighter, or even where he in the build-up kind of downplayed your skills, and I believe the phrase that he used was like a street fighter with good cardio. Was that was that
He's
the direct phrase he used?
I can quote I can quote it I can quote it for you, Anthony. It was an in-shape street fighter.
NC Street Fighter. Okay, yeah, something along those lines. So when you hear things like that, and you did mention how you don't have a unified title right now, and some people don't want to fight someone without a belt. I mean, are you content with kind of being like that perpetual dog, like being the guy who's gonna give everyone a tough fight, but not necessarily be the belt holder?
No, I'm not. I'm not content with that at all, man. I'm not gonna allow losing to stop me from fighting. But if it gets to the point where the question is, what does Shawn need to do to get over the hump? If after each fight you're asking that, then it's time for Shawn Porter to stop trying to get over that hump. I'm just not. I'm not a loser. I don't like to lose. I don't want to lose. I think the thing that overshadows the losing is what I've always said is you can lose, but it's how you lose. If you lose on both feet, if you lose, fighting back, if you lose giving it all you got, then first off, I have nothing to be ashamed of. And second off, I mean, clearly everyone in the crowd and everyone watching is really excited and pleased with the performance. Obviously I'm not happy with the outcome, but I accept it. But I mean, I'm not in this game to just get in the ring with great fighters and lose to great fighters. I want to be a great fighter. You don't become a great fighter by losing a fight. So hell no. I don't. No, that's not happening. We not gonna keep losing. We just gonna keep working hard. As you guys can see, man, I never come into the ring the same. The conditioning is always the same, but the skills and the game plan and all that kind of stuff is always different depending on who we're in the ring with. So when I say we're gonna keep working hard, I mean the conditioning and all that. We're gonna keep working on that, but the skills and everything that's required to become a great fighter, a great champion, we're gonna work on all that as well.
How's Kenny taking it? Because I know Kenny takes stuff very seriously. And
Yeah.
two, does it bother you? Or does it excite you in a way that people know how the business side of promotion? Because Earl won't admit you did carry the pay-per-view because I know how the business go and I know what was done and was not done on both ends. So you could go with Terrence, maybe as you fight Crawford, I know you can put up numbers.
Yeah,
And the people behind the scenes know. Does that bother you the fact that he wouldn't have been that like on the business side, like you were in New York? Like I talked to you in 3 different states. I talked to you in Vegas, I talked to you in New York, I talked to you in DC. So I
yeah.
know you a hustler.
I I sat there a few hours before the fight, and I go down the list. I text Dave Chappelle. I text big time director producer Antoine Fuqua. I text Steve Smith from the
Sorry,
NBA.
can you repeat that? Can you repeat that? It cut out on our end.
Yeah, I sat there a few hours before the fight and I sent some text messages out, and I said I'll go down the list. I text Dave Chappelle, I text director and producer Antoine Fuqua, I text Steve Smith, former NBA basketball player, Shaquille O'Neal again, a couple NFL players, and I just did the best I could to make sure that they knew not only was this fight gonna be on pay per view, but that they knew to shoot a tweet out to make sure everybody else was aware of this fight. I think I did more than enough to sell this fight, more than Errol Spence did. I think I did more than he could imagine to do. I don't think he necessarily knows how to sell a fight. No disrespect to him, but I've been in this game a little bit longer than him, and I think I got a pretty good grasp on the business side of it as well as the performance side of it. So nothing new to me at all to sell a fight. And I think just I haven't gotten word on the official number yet, but I expect this number to do better, the fight to do better than Mikey Garcia and Errol Spence did. I'm hoping it goes that way. That's the only way I get paid. But again, I have fun, and I honestly I can't wait to do it again. I'm looking forward to just being a part of big promotions and big fights. And at this point, the number one goal is to win. It's not to become a champion again. It's not to have a belt. My number one goal is to win until I'm done with this, and that's important to me. You asked about my dad. He's taking it in stride. His mind stays on the business though. I have not had one
That's
conversation.
kidding. You right though.
I haven't made it through a day without talking about what to do next with my dad. And that's of course that's his job, but I think he's really concerned right now that because I don't have any belts that I could be I could get lost in the shuffle, and he doesn't want that to happen. So we, believe it or not, man, we actually back to work tomorrow. I'm telling y'all right now, I'm not happy about it. I'm gonna do it, but I'm not happy about it. He got me going on the track at 10, and then in the gym at 2 or 3 o'clock in the afternoon. This is what he feels needs to be done right now. He thinks I need to stay sharp and stay ready. So that's what we're doing, and that's the port away.
All right, when are you thinking about coming back to the ring, and when you do, who's on the docket next?
It's definitely early next year to till about spring like we did this year. I would expect somewhere around that February to March month to be back in the ring. My thoughts was Keith Thurman, and then my dad told me, he said, "Well, Keith's hurt." I'm like, "Oh yeah, I forgot about that." And I think the move after that would be the guy that got in the ring and called out Errol Spence, or I don't know if he called him out or said I want to fight you or whatever. But if Danny feels he's man enough to get in the ring with Errol, get in the ring with the man that was just in the ring with Errol.
All right.
Gotcha. The- how big? I know you said you want to win, but do you think like fighting a Crawford or or Earl in a rematch, is that what will solidify you? I know you don't talk about it, but I know you're very aware of your legacy because you're like in the between. Because like you beating Danny, but you lost to Keith real close. You lost to Earl. And it's like you need that legacy to find and stamp on your resume so that you're a surefire walk through the door first ballot. Is that where your focus at in the big picture?
Yeah, the focus is big fights, winning those big fights. I, I got a feeling that when this is all said and done, no matter what I do after this point, I think I'm still Hall of Fame worthy. I think that here's the great part about it, man. I made it a goal of mine not to just get in the ring and become a champion and win, but I made it a goal of mine to inspire people and to motivate people. And what I'm doing, that's being done, and that's gonna be a part of my legacy. My legacy is not just being in the Hall of Fame for professional boxing, but my a part of my legacy is also what I've done outside of the boxing ring. To help the people, the world, the country. So I think that everything is on the right track. Obviously, like I said before, we need big wins. We need big exciting fights, big wins. But I think from a boxing perspective, I think I'm close to the Hall of Fame. And then from a legacy perspective, I think that everything I have set out to do in this sport is being done. And again, man, I can't tell you how grateful and blessed I feel about it all.
Well, you don't run your mouth or nothing, man. But you see how Terrence Crawford was trying to turn off the heat on Earl before the accident. So when you turn the tables and put the heat on him because he act like y'all PBC fighters don't exist other than Earl.
Hey, man, listen.
About you, he don't
I
say
got
nothing about Creed. He don't say about like Danny. Like he just done enough to be able to dismiss y'all. I think it's crazy.
But the world knows that Terrence and I have a clear understanding of where we are as friends and where we want to do as boxers, as competitors. He's not saying anything about me because him and I have that understanding. I'm not saying anything about him because him and I have that understanding. So he can be oblivious to any other fighter in PBC boxing but Errol Spence, and I actually have no problem with that because of the understanding that him and I have. If by chance the world redirects uh, Errol Spence and Terrence Crawford to Terrence Crawford and Showtime Shawn Porter, him and I talk about it, and then y'all will be the next ones to hear about it.
All right.
Fellas,
Cool.
go.
All right, all right, Shawn. Thank you so much for your time, and appreciate having you on, man. And best of luck to your next outing. Looking forward to speaking to you again, my man.
Appreciate it, man. I'll
I,
talk to y'all.
I, hey, out of your days, which one's the least busiest? Because I want to hit you and talk some business in the next couple of weeks. What's your least busiest out of all the days? I know you're busy every
Days,
day. Yeah,
days, Sunday. You always
which
get
day?
the best day. Yeah, Sunday's the best day.
Yeah,
I ain't got nothing but church and
gotcha. I hit
football.
you up next
Most
Sunday, man.
Sundays, nothing but church and football.
Yeah, both our teams struggling, man. Cowboys blowing games, Browns blowing
You think they throwing them? No, I ain't
games.
throwing them. Yeah. All right, now I gotta go.
I I appreciate you, man.
Please welcome to the Slip and Dip podcast, making its Slip and Dip debut. One of the best known names in boxing, training some of the stars in boxing, from Gennady Triple G Golovkin to Dillian White, and former heavyweight champion of the world, Wilder Klitschko, Mr. Jonathan Banks. Thank you for coming to the show, brother.
Hey man, thanks for having me. I appreciate it. What's going on?
Hey, how's your week changed, man? It seemed like from everything since Saturday night, it seemed like you would think that y'all lost the fight officially. The way people are acting.
Um, you know what? Hey, I learned a long time ago, many years ago, that you can't have your move off the perception of how people how people think. You know what I'm saying? So you gotta go with the flow, man. You gotta it is what it is. Gotta ride whatever wave you on. You gotta ride it. You know what I'm saying, whether you win or whether you lose, if you leave it in the judge's hands, that's what you gotta live with.
You know how some people put out like erroneous reports. Somewhere so I saw a report. I don't know how accurate it is. You can throw some light on it. They said that you said that Triple G needs to listen and change his style, or he needs to hang it up.
I don't recall saying that. Somebody,
Yeah, that's why I asked you directly.
that's what somebody said, but I don't recall saying that, but it is a situation where you know, it just like it's almost like take, taking a trip trying to get somewhere. You know what I'm saying? And nothing has been done in a day throughout the course of history that's been worth keeping. You know what I'm saying? So that's to me that's the bottom line. Rome wasn't built in a day, but it's always a place people love to go to. Oh, how beautiful it is. You know what I'm saying? Because it's something that wasn't built like soon as at the snap of the finger, it wasn't built in a day. And that's to me, that's what success is. If you want something closest to perfection as possible, then it's gonna take a lot of bumps and bruises along the way to get there.
Let's talk about that journey a little bit in training someone who was as well accomplished as Triple G. Were there any particular habits that he kind of learned under his tutelage with Abel Sanchez that you felt a need to try to clean up or polish a little bit more?
Well, that's every fighter. Every fighter got habits that, whether it's good or bad, every fighter got certain habits that if someone else was looking at them, they say, you know what, let's try to change this habit. But if you looking at them, you may figure it's okay. You know what I'm saying? So I think every fighter got habits that they would get with another trainer. They will say, you know what, I would like to change this. So, in that aspect, right, that's like I said, that's every fighter. You know what I'm saying? Good habits or bad habits. But a lot of things see when it comes to trying to change something about a fighter. A lot of habits you see, even if you don't like them, sometimes you just let them go because it's working for that particular fighter. You know what I'm saying? So if let's say, um, when Cassius Clay first won the title against Sonny Liston, then he changed his name to Muhammad Ali. Let's say he would have changed trainers. And the first thing the man would have to do is, hey, man, stop moving so much. Put your hands up. That would have changed the course of who he was. You know what I'm saying? Who he was as an individual would have been different. You know what I'm saying? Because that was that also that style is also a part of his personality. So a lot of things fighters do, um, whether it's good or bad, some things you just don't mess with because it's just part of that particular fighter. Like it's almost like the part of, it's almost like waking up. As soon as you wake up, the first thing you like to do is come to the edge of the bed for a minute. And if you change that, it seems like your whole day is up. Because that's a part of your routine. That's something that you do. And knowing that most athletes, especially fighters, are very superstitious. And then certain things they do, they like to keep doing because they feel that brings them either luck or whatever.
Would be safe to say that Triple G uh, needs to uh, keep fight simple because it seemed like when they got to the firefight, he got backed up, and that's not what I'm used to seeing. It seemed like when he kept it simple, basic jab and move, he was winning the fight. Yeah, it was entertaining, but he wasn't getting hit. But when they got to those quick exchanges, it seemed, especially in the middle rounds, Devin Chenko was getting the best of him, including getting when he caught him with that body shot in the fifth round. So it would be safe to say that he should fight a more tactical, maybe boring to fans, instead of trying to please the fans and bring the drama show and get into all these wars that it's hard to do when you're at 37.
I don't think his age has, in my opinion, I don't think his age has anything to do with it. But I think it's also a situation where, um, when you're trying to please people, you know what I'm saying? You try to please people like nobody be satisfied. So if you try to please yourself at the end of the day, you happy with your results. And everybody else just have to live with it. You know what I'm saying? That's almost to the point situation. Um, you want to make sure everybody um thriving. But that's not a bad thing. There's nothing wrong with that. fighter, my opinion is that one in the fight, the number one person you see is and if the fans like it, cool. If they don't, that's something you got to live with.
All right, so can you describe the emotional roller coaster that might have been going on in the corner during that fight? I mean, he was able to drop Sergey, and I believe it was the second round, and then things don't go as planned from there on. A lot of back and forth drama. What was it like being in the corner and kind of containing the emotional aspect of what was going on?
I don't. There wasn't too many emotional aspects of it, in my opinion. There wasn't too many emotions going on. It's just the fact that it was just the fact that I'm seeing what he needs to do, and is trying to do everything I can with words to pull it out of him. That's one of the very difficult things when you know what you need to get done. You got to use words to get it done instead of physical action. Because the average person jump up and say, "You got to do that," or "Let's go, we do it together." Or in basketball, you got a guy right next to you. Say, "Listen, man, right when you jump, I'm alive to you. I'm gonna be right there with you." You know what I'm saying? I can't do that. I can't say I'm right there with you. I'm alive to you right when you get there. I can't do that. I got to be able to use my words and say, "This is what needs to happen. This is what I need you to do." And if he see it, then cool. If he don't see it, if he'll try it, then he ain't gonna try it like he would try it if he seen it. It's like if somebody told you to step out the street to pick something up. If you don't see it, you're gonna be so hesitant to step out in the street. You still may step out there, but look how different your walking. Look how different your vision. Look how different. Imagine the position your hands would be. Because everything just became different. You don't see it right away. And if you not with us being human as creatures of habit, with us not seeing stuff right away, we only react to things we see. Because we in the boxing ring, that's the most important thing. And think about it. Life is like a boxing ring. We only react to things we see. How many things will we run into? How many things will we get away from? Because we only react to things we see. And sometimes we can react to something someone said. It's always easy to react
So if y'all get the rematch with Devinchenko, how will that fight? How should that fight play different so it could be an easier fight for Triple G?
to things. I think if he was to choose to do a rematch, I just think pressing the action going forward would be a better avenue. That's just my mentality for especially the situation. Fight. Everything matters. Your movement, your mentality, everything matters. And you get a fighter, press him, and you choose to back him up, and you be relentless. Like like a Marvin Hagler, it sends a message. It's a mental message, physical message, like that. That message saying, here, one thing only. I'm not leaving to that thing. And if you sit down, that anytime that message is sent to another person, it's kind of scary. You know what I'm saying? If you got somebody in your face, constantly in your face, that won't get out your face, you start to second guess your own self. Why is this person getting out of my face? They know what the best thing I got. He's still in my face. It psychologically destroys your opponent. That's why I like pressure. Stop. The backing up.
All right, so now I guess we can kind of play on more so the names that center around Triple G, and of course the first thing that comes to mind is Canelo Alvarez, and he's got a big challenge ahead against Kovalev coming up in a few weeks now. You know, Canelo taking a challenge 2 weight classes above what he normally fights. I mean, is this what do you think his chances are in this fight? Do you think this is a wise idea for him?
I think he got a great chance. I give him kind of a like a nothing is guaranteed in the sport of boxing. Give him like a 90% chance to win, but that's a very high percentage with a guy that's jumping up to weight class. Guy that's like couple of physically bigger. Oh, but as history shown that anytime the smaller guy jump up weight class, one thing that's to his advantage that he uses is every time the physically smaller guy, bigger guy, if he can use this, that is unmatched. He Kovalev from being at the 30 round, not gonna match his speed. He's not gonna match Canelo's speed. That's something that's just not gonna happen. It'll take a lot of time for him to end up matching this man's speed. And you got a guy who touch and go, touch and go, touch and go. And Kovalev don't touch and go. Kovalev is set up to hit you and hurt you. He ain't set up to touch you. And Canelo is. As long as Canelo set up to touch and go, by the time Kovalev decides to land the punch, Canelo's going to be out of the way. Canelo's got to try to read his mind. As soon as he thinks about punch, he's going to be out of the way. That's a general thing for a smaller guy to do for a bigger guy. You know what I'm saying? It's try to feel his body, feel his rhythm. As soon as that muscle in the shoulder even bulge up a little bit, the guy's out of there. He's right back in front of his face, right back in. So I think it will be a contest, and pretty much enjoying it. Hopefully, let's keep it up. If he can, I think Canelo could do better with pain, whatever Kovalev is doing for 12 rounds. I think it would be a boxing match for the first 7 rounds. After that, Canelo will try to do it.
What about one of your other peoples? We were talking about Triple G. What's the latest on Dillian White and all that craziness?
You know what? I've just been reading like you guys been reading. I really don't know. I mean, it's a crazy situation. Dylan White is a good dude, man. I wish him all the best, but he has been like mandatory challenges. Like he fought like 4 times. He became mandatory challenges. I mean, I think he's been mandatory more times than anybody who never fought for the title.
Crazy.
That's the most craziest things, to be mandatory that many times and that long, and you still have yet to fight for the title. That was a weird situation. But parents doing what he feels is best for him. But like I said, he's a good dude, man. I just wish him, all the best.
Well, what do you think when you hear Eddie say that Triple G and Demenchenko would be an instant sellout rematch and would be a chance to be a Fight of the Year candidate? Being that you're in Triple G's corner, I'm pretty sure you want the fight, but you want to be a Fight of the Year candidate, do you?
It doesn't. Those things doesn't matter to me, really. You know what I'm saying? Don't really matter. It was a war. You know what I'm saying? It was a fight that on both sides of the field, it was difficult for either. It was sometimes it was difficult. It looked like it was difficult for both fighters to answer the bell. It was a really fight, and the styles of these two guys putting together again, you have almost identical.
All right. So, as a gentleman who had a very successful career in the heavyweight division, I mean, kind of after your era at heavyweight, there was a noticeable decline in the public interest in the weight class, and now we see it picking back up with names like Anthony Joshua, like Ruiz, like Deontay Wilder. Like, which out of the current crop of heavyweights, like who gets you excited as a fan to watch, and who you really checking for?
I mean, I'm overall, I'm looking at all of them. I never I've been asked that question a lot. I never was able to sit back and see the decline in the heavyweight division because I'm with a heavyweight that's packing out arenas, stadiums. You know what I'm saying? So the decline part that people said, I never was able to see it. Every time we went to Madison Square Garden, boom, fell out. You know what I'm saying? And I was never able to see what people say it was a decline. But at the same time, I do notice because of the different names in the division that I am noticing the more of excitement right now because I'm not in particularly in the front row of the heavyweight division right now. You know what I'm saying? So I am noticing a lot of things. So um, I just think um, I don't even know who's up for it. It's so exciting because I think Deontay Wilder makes everybody think that's who the majority really like because he makes you stand there and beat. You don't know what you go get and how soon you go get it. I'm sorry. You know what you're gonna get. You just don't know how soon you're gonna get it. You know what I'm saying? So you know you get a knockout dealing with him. You just don't know how soon you're gonna get it. You know what I'm saying? So I just think he's like all these guys right now make their own share of excitement to the team. And they all got their like you got most fans. You got a lot of fans that they crazy about Anthony Joshua. They kind of leery about that. They definitely like Deontay Wilder. So if they crazy about that theory, they say, oh, Joshua's okay. Then they agree that Wilder can punch. So they all got their own dynamic they bring to the table. It seems like they all got their own fan base. That's what's making it to me. That's what's making the sport so much exciting because these guys coming with their own fan base. And, like they got fans that's crazy about them. So I think it's me as a fan standpoint. I think it's awesome. But to watch out for it, like there's no one person. They all got their own dynamic they bring to the table. This is my opinion. Like I think punch harder than most, but everybody punch the division. So anybody can get hurt, knocked out at any given time, as we saw in recent doings in the heavyweight division with AJ and Ruiz.
All right. All right, so I'm going to ask you something that's kind of maybe touching in on your competitive side, as being a former boxer. Now, when you look at the heavyweight division now, and you see some of these names, and you see the top dollars, you see kind of the fan excitement generated by them. Will you look at any of them? Are you thinking like in your prime, like which ones do you think you really give some work to?
Man, I be looking at like any of them. You know what I'm saying? I just like man, I be hitting the road. I was I'm about to go. I'm on the road running. I like man, like this would be a fun situation for any of them. Like literally any of them. I couldn't name one guy because I mean I've been there. I shared the ring with Tyson Fury a couple times, a bunch of times actually. So I'm used to his style, what he do. And he's the most difficult in style matchup. Difficult. Only in style matchup. Big. He's elusive, and that's hard for any. That's hard for anybody to deal with. A man that size and that elusive. You know what I'm saying? But I'm just looking at it. I'm looking at the whole thing.
So, what do you think about it when he got caught by Deontay? Do you think that Deontay figured him out so the second fight would be easier for Deontay whenever they fight?
I don't think that it's a matter of Deontay figured him out because the same punch. I mean, could slap just about anybody. You know what I'm saying? I'm still, it's still amazing how he got up from that punch. Number one, so you have to give all credit in the world Deontay knows deep down inside that I can hurt anybody I lay a hand on. So I believe that this in the rematch, he's gonna try to lay hands on him more earlier and more often. I think going forward, from what I saw with Brazil, going forward, that's his goal. Not only to lay hands on somebody early and often. Just just the little things. Yeah, I think a lot of people didn't even realize. Like at least 5 things changed about Deontay. That one particular fight. He have never moved like that. He have never come to nobody like that fast. You know what I'm saying? So I'm looking at little things that he has changed about himself to get to his target a little bit faster and attack him a little bit faster. You know what I'm saying? So I'm looking at him. I'm like, man, this dude is growing. I think the worst thing that people have done is give this man time. You know what I'm saying? Because he's changing things. He's getting better. And for the guy with 2 hands full of dynamite, that's going to be a hard guy to deal with. Like, that he feel like sitting down. That's going to be a hard guy to deal with.
Right. All right. And before I let you go, 2 last questions. Who you got? And will we Joshua 2? And when will we see you back in the ring, like getting your train on? Well, will I see any fights before the end of 2019?
First question I got, believe it or not, I got Anthony Joshua. I had Anthony Joshua the first fight, and I could pick him again in the second fight, only because, like I said, I sat next to Andy Reid. Me and him had a conversation. I said, listen, man, like, I ain't putting nothing past nobody. If you put the best foot forward, you could be hit with champion of the world. And I honestly believe that when it comes to this doggone ring, man, because you just don't know. You got to understand that boxing have took more people from poverty to like to almost privilege than Wall Street. You know what I'm saying? Because you didn't only education you need here is the viewers, the physical education. That's the top education you need at this level. And it's the sport. It's the viewers, your viewing of education. You know what I'm saying? So that makes it always a chance. Someone come from mediocre background or come from the hood, come from the project to be able to make something of themselves and have one of the most prestigious titles in sports in the world. But to your other question about my fighters, I got some young guys doing the show November 1st here in Detroit. So I got some young guys trying to make their mark on the scene. Some up and comers. I got them fighting. As far as any big shows, as far as any big games, I think and we gonna start probably February.
Thanks for your time, brother. Trainer of the stars, Mr. Jonathan Banks, one of the coolest guys in boxing, one of the most knowledgeable guys in boxing. And like, this is a behind the scenes thing. It seemed like you were doing a lot of interviews because I know Triple G's got the language barrier, but was that like kind of to take the heat off of him? Because you did a good job being like the sidekick during Media Week.
Time we said I did a lot of interviews because of what?
It's kind of take the pressure off of Triple G. Just kind of let him focus on the fight more so.
You know, I think a lot of times, you know, now you got, don't get me wrong, each fighter, a lot of fighters are simple, but each fighter got the breaking point to the point where they done talking to the media. They're not contractually, most fighters are not contractually obligated. They don't have a contract that's obligated to the media, like NBA players. But athletes, period, if you think about it, all athletes, the closer you get to a game, the more irritated they are with the media.
Mm.
You know what I'm saying? Because you trying to focus, get in your zone. You got a peaceful regimen trying to do before you unleash all of the violence on another man. You know what I'm saying? And I think a lot of the media, some of them, I'm not saying all of them, some of them don't get where fighters hear that. Like you got a lot of violence that you're getting ready to unleash on another individual. You're thinking up a hurtful thoughts and painful memories for this individual. You know what I'm saying? So to come with a friendly conversation, so how you feeling right now? You know what I'm saying? Like nobody, they not feeling that right now. You know what I'm saying? They mindset goes to another place and say, listen, like no interviews right now. I'm about to do some great bodily harm to an individual right now. After I'm finished, yeah, we can talk about whatever you want to talk about. But a lot of fighters get like that. You know what I'm saying? A lot of them really do. They don't want to do interviews right before they go out. By the time they get to the dressing room, they done with interviews because they have to game themselves and mentally get ready, and they're not trying to hear no questions. All they got is what's in their head and what they're trying to say, what they're trying to portray to their opponent. So a lot of media they take offense to it. They don't really get it. You know, this man like he about to go psycho for at least 1 hour. You know what I'm saying? He about to try to physically harm this man. You know what I'm saying? If he kill him, he kill him. That's your mentality when you in the ring. You know what I'm saying? You ain't saying I'm about to pat him on that. I'm about to pat him on the butt if he make a mistake. No, you're not thinking that. You thinking it's either him or me. I gotta feed mine. You know what I'm saying? I gotta do what's best for me. That's your mindset. And so when you like a lot of fighters just don't want to break that and doing an interview like either right before they go out or once they get to the dressing room. You know what I'm saying? So I think a lot of media need to understand that. So at some point, you just lay off and say, you know what, you got to we chop it up after.
All right.
Mr. Briggs breaking it down for us, man. Thank you for joining the Slip and Dip. The next time we get you on, we have our usual setup. Thanks for letting me in and inside behind the scenes of the Triple G camp.
And it's all good, man. I appreciate it, man. Like this is a good podcast, man. Like two knowledgeable guys about the sport. Like I love it, man. It's all good.
I appreciate it,
All
brother.
right. Thanks for your time.
Thank you. I appreciate it.